Hi there, I'm Martha Ivester, Head of Marketing for Northern Europe at Google. I hope this finds you and your loved ones safe and well. These are unprecedented times, and the coronavirus continues to be top of mind for everyone, with many of us now being asked to stay home by our local governments. For 21 years, Google's mission has been to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. Helping people get the right information to stay healthy is more important than ever in the face of a global pandemic. In particular, we're focused on helping our users find the right useful information and protecting them from misinformation. This includes providing useful, relevant ads while ensuring advertisers are not taking advantage of the pandemic. For example, we do not allow ads for face masks. We're also focused on enabling productivity for remote workers and students, and supporting relief efforts and government organizations. We filmed this video series before the wide-scale spread of the coronavirus, and we thought long and hard about whether this is the right time to launch. These days are not business as usual. However, for lots of businesses, these trainings come at a crucial time, a time when they are striving to be precise, useful, and relevant to their customers. We have heard from many of you that you want these sessions to go ahead, so we have decided to proceed with Learn from Home Week, and we hope you are able to watch at home. Please know that we are here if you need us. Stay safe, and we wish you well.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the Learn from Home Week, an all-you-can-learn video series covering a wide range of different Google products and solutions. My name is Matthias, and I work as a client manager for Denmark. I've been working at Google for 3.5 years by now, and I'm the co-host for today. Here's an overview of some of the topics we'll be covering during the Learn from Home Week. Tomorrow you can see that we have a display session in the morning and a YouTube session in the afternoon. You can sign up to watch any of these sessions here on our platform. Today's session will be about smart bidding and how you can use smart bidding to optimize your marketing towards your business goals. And with me today, I'm lucky to have Clara and Nima. Could you guys please introduce yourselves?
Yeah, sure. Do you want to kick it off?
I'm happy to kick it off. Hi everyone, very nice meeting you. My name is Clara. I'm working here in Google as a product specialist, focusing on automation and very specifically on smart bidding.
Yeah, and my name is Nima, and I work as a search specialist in Northern Europe. Some of you watching right now might recognize me. Most of you probably won't. So I work specifically with smart bidding on search. So I will also be pitching in and complimenting Clara on everything smart bidding related.
Yes, so I'm sure I have the two best people for this in Google.
100%.
And I'm super happy that we're going to go through this. Before we kick it off too much, I have some practical information. Today's session is actually recorded, so the questions that will pop up, there will be a question box underneath here where you can ask any questions. We will all be live to answer them during the streaming of this. We're also going to stick around a little bit for afterwards, and we're going to be ready to answer any of your questions there. Towards the end of this session, we will have a feedback survey that will pop up on the right-hand side. Please give your feedback there. We really use this feedback to make sure that we improve these sessions every time we do it. But with that, I'm gonna hand it over to you guys to take us through smart bidding.
Thank you, Matthias, for the introduction. We're very excited to be here and have you listening in. We'll spend the next approximately hour on our favorite product.
Which is, of course, smart bidding.
Exactly. So let's kick it off. An overview on the agenda. We're doing a short introduction on what's the status quo of smart bidding, where do we come from, then talk about our different smart bidding strategies and how to best align them to your marketing goals. We'll introduce you to features like the bid strategy report, the top signals report, talk about conversion cycles, then touch on a quite new feature, the campaign level conversion settings, and then go into our bid strategies a bit more in depth. I'm talking about target CPA, the target ROAS, budget simulator, of course, branding for search, which is quite a huge topic, I think, for a lot of you guys joining. And last but not least, creatives and automation, like how can you improve smart bidding after having it applied, and touch on the next steps, which will then already be basically the bridge to the next sessions following this one. That's good?
That's
Have I forgotten
amazing.
anything?
No, I think there's so much good stuff
Okay,
out there.
yeah, there's a lot. So
Yeah.
let's kick it off.
Let's do it.
Okay, perfect. So smart bidding is nothing new, right? It's not a new product. It has been around for quite some time. The first conversion-based bidding strategy was actually launched in 2008. We back then called it the conversion optimizer. Very creative. And since then, a lot happened, right? Since then, we put a lot of resources, a lot of engineering resources specifically into improving automated bidding, specifically in the last 2 to 3 years. And here you can see some highlights of 2019 that have been officially communicated, updates that have been made to our algorithms. So as you can see, smart bidding is not only applied on search, but also shopping and display, of course, and also YouTube. But we have introduced new bidding strategies such as display max conversions, maximize conversion value for search also. Then for if we stick with display, we have launched the STC starter mode, which allows you to use our smart bidding on display with already very little or no conversion eligibility. Another focus area we're putting a lot of resources actually conversion tracking. Having here on the slide the selective optimization, as this is basically the key, right, the basis of every smart bidding solution. And last but not least, also like doing a lot for our O2O advertisers that are not only advertising and want to drive sales or signups, whatever, online, but also actually offline.
Yeah, just in general, a lot of exciting things happening in this space. And as Clara also mentioned already, we might not always communicate that, but we're also constantly improving the algorithms that lies underneath this technology. So you will see efficiency gains over time that we might not necessarily communicate, but they are being made. So much interesting stuff happening in this space, and we're very, very excited to walk you through some of them today. Branding for search, as we mentioned, how you can use target impression share. We're going to talk a little about, like, there's obviously more bid strategies than the ones we're showing on the screen right now, but these are the most common ones that are commonly and widely used. And we're going to try to figure out, like, how do you choose between them and how can you really optimize and get the best performance out of it. So we're going to talk a little about target CPA, target ROAS, which other solutions that there might be to do the same job, depending on of course, your business and your goals. But just to kick it off, for today, we thought it could be a little fun to use an example. For this example today, we chose Nima's Magic Store. I'm very passionate about magic. And since I couldn't make it as a full-time magician, I thought this was the next best thing I could do.
Having some side business running to your Google job.
Yeah, my parents really wanted me to become a magician, but I was a rebel, so I became a product specialist at Google. So I created what I believe is one of the most beautiful websites on the internet right now. Basically, we're going to use this store as an example of the different things and how to actually think about smart bidding and when to use what. So as you can see, there is like book a magic show, which means I'll come out to your company or a birthday party. That's like a fixed price thing. Then you can buy equipment in my web shop. You can buy different equipment that you need for doing cool magic tricks. We all know that's the coolest thing you can do. And then there's also a newsletter where you can sign up to learn tricks. So what we're trying to do here is more or less emulate the different objectives that you might have in your business. It's gonna be magical. Cool. Let's kick it off. So I have a magic store. And Clara, please help me because you are one of the best smart bidding specialists we have. So for my magic store, as I mentioned, I have a show. I do a show and it's a fixed price. So I have
Okay.
like a 500 euro fixed price every time I do the show. And as you can see here, I chosen target CPA for that. But I'd just like love to get your thoughts on like objectives and which
Okay.
bidding strategies to use in
Okay.
general.
Why did you choose the target CPA?
Well, yeah, as I mentioned, it's like 500 euros.
Yeah.
It's a fixed price. It's very rarely more or less. And then I just thought, I know with all of my expenses, you know, with my assistant Matthias, who frequently joins, it's very expensive as well. I shouldn't be paying more than 100 euro.
Okay.
I don't want to pay more than 100 euro for a lead.
Okay.
So for that reason, I just thought it would be best. Yeah.
Okay. So the Magic Show campaign, actually the goal of this campaign is to drive leads
Yeah.
for show requests.
And hopefully leads that actually convert.
Okay.
Obviously, I don't want leads that don't convert. Yeah.
Okay. How many of the leads usually convert? Do you know that?
I don't know, but that's
Yeah.
a really good question. But I think maybe half of them.
Okay.
I have a good name out there in the magician
Yeah,
community.
no, I can totally see that. Okay, amazing. So if you already know like how many of the leads you get are actually turning into real customers, that would be already very useful to understand how much are you really able to spend on this lead. But then also my follow-up question here would be, if you have like someone booking a show with you, how often do they book in the future usually?
Or very often.
Yeah.
It's a magical experience that they want all their friends and kids to have as well. So I would say it's quite frequent that people follow up on phone and email and ask me if I can do another show.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
So do you know more or less like how often they would follow up or how many shows you generate out of the first lead?
Yeah, I've been in the business for many years, so it could be I don't know, like once a year.
Okay.
Yeah, once a year for a friend or a colleague. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. So it's once a year. Let's say a customer stays with you for 5 years.
Yeah.
So it's 5 years a show per year for 500.
Yeah.
Do you still think so? You make like 2,500
Yeah.
out of one lead, let's say. Would you still say like you're willing to spend like 100 for a lead, or thinking of that number, you'd rather say you're even
Yeah.
profitable spending more?
That's a really good point, and I think that's as we're also going right now.
Yeah.
We are really doing some live role playing.
Yeah.
I think this is a conversation
Yes.
that I need to have with my assistant as well, who's partly has shares in the business, but to actually kind of reevaluate if my targets are correct. And targets is actually also something we'll be covering today. So yeah, actually, if I make 2,500 on average on a client, maybe 100 euro is not based on a 500 euro one-time show is maybe not the right way to do it. And I think we often experience this as well, right? With many of our clients. I mean, that was how we've done things for a long time, but now we just have so much data and CRM data as well that we can use. So it makes much more sense to think about the long term and the lifetime value.
Definitely. So challenge yourself on what's the actual realistic target you're able to spend. But just from like what bid strategy you chose, like the target CPA, as you have a fixed price, and I assume the margin, as it's always the two of you presenting or running the show, is stable.
Yeah.
I think it's the best strategy you could have chosen for this business objective.
I'm very glad to hear that. So yeah, outside of just thinking about what the target should be and stuff, once you actually, in this case, I've chosen, as you can see on the screen, I'm inside my campaigns, and I've chosen the bid strategy target CPA. Once you actually figured out what the target should be and which bid strategy fits your objective, I mean, the holy grail for working with smart bidding, in my opinion, and please challenge me, is to always take a look at the bid strategy report. And the bid strategy report has been hidden. Some of you might know it, you never have heard of it. It's not that uncommon because it is a bit tricky to find, but you can see on the screen that in the column called bid strategy type, you can actually click on target CPA, which is highlighted with a red square. And if you click on it, you'll get inside the bid strategy report. And even if you've seen it before, there's some new stuff that's been added there recently, and a lot of new things will be added there as well. And what's new in here is that, you know, the feedback from a lot of our clients, including maybe some of you, has been, well, we can see that smart bidding is working, but we don't know what's going on. Can you give some more transparency? Can you kind of tell us what is it using? What are the ingredients that it used to bid up and down? So what our product teams have done is they try to see if there is a way that we can actually show what are some of the top signals to give some insight and transparency into like, how is it working? And as you can see here, in this an example, we have some different signals. You can see on weekdays between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. in the location Copenhagen, that's a good signal for someone who's been converting. That's something that we take into account as a positive signal. There's also mentions of like live magic show and exact match. That's a keyword that is doing really well. On the device tablet, it's not a positive signal. How do you think about this when you watch this, just in terms of transparency?
Yes. So as you said, like I think it's one of our attempts to bring some light into the black box of smart bidding. I'd say it's super useful for reporting and understanding like what the algorithm is adjusting for, especially if you're an agency or you might need to report to your team or other departments. This is super useful. Also, it gives you some good insights for launching your display or YouTube campaigns, or even like for other advertising activities you're doing in different channels or platforms. However, it should not be an indicator of what to change in the campaign, really, right? Because smart bidding is already doing those adjustments based on the likelihood of the conversion for the set target CPA in this regards, or in this example. I think what it's also very useful for is adjusting maybe the creatives, which we will talk about in the end.
Yeah.
But I'd say that's it, yeah.
So that's relatively new, and I mean, even if you know about the bid strategy report, just make sure that you give it, like, you frequently revisit it, especially if you get clients, if you're working for an agency, if you get clients that are asking about performance, or if you're a client, or if you're an advertiser and you see changes in performance, like the first place you should look is the bid strategy report. And just to show you why, here's like an example of the graph that you will see inside the bid strategy report. And just to use the example again of an advertiser, where you might experience, like, for the last 7 days, my CPA in my Magic web shop has gone up. So maybe I'll reach out to my account manager, which most likely wouldn't be Matthias, because he doesn't handle the Magic portfolio.
Unfortunately.
But maybe you'll reach out to agency or your account manager at Google and ask, like, what is going on? The last 7 days, the CPA has been increasing. And the reason why we started off with the bid strategy report is this is the place to go, because this graph will immediately tell you, yes, the actual CPA the last 7 days going up. But then if you look on the x-axis of this graph, you have like the date, and you'll see there's a blue line with an eye icon. And if you hover above that, it'll tell you the majority of your conversions is actually being reported with a delay. So it can take maybe 7 days for them to be reported. So even though it looks like right now, the last 7 days, the CPA is high, 7 days from now, you might most likely be hitting the historical target as well. And that's really a good example of how you can see there's also a gray line on the x-axis and a yellow line. Every time you hover above those lines, it'll actually tell you what's going on underneath the hood of the strategy.
Yeah. And a very easy fix, right? If you want to see what's the average, what's the actual CPA, is like on the right up. You can actually change the date range you're looking at. So if you know, like, the conversion delay is 4 days, just make sure you take out those 4 days, and then you would see the actual average CPA for this period of time.
Exactly.
Super useful.
So it is very useful, and that's why we wanted to highlight the bid strategy report. And I know that most likely a lot of new things will be added as well in the future, so just keep an eye on it. And it might be, like, it could be any question that the client might have. It might be that they've seen other unusual activities, and it might not be the delay on conversions, but if you hover above the yellow line, it might say, you know what, the campaign has been limited by budget, there's been new keywords that were added, it's going into learning period again, or what, like, it's just a way for you to quickly get an idea of, like, what's going on under the hood. So I think for optimization and transparency, and reporting, it's a very useful tool.
It's super useful. A question I get quite a lot is, what if the conversion delay is very, very long, let's say, or is there actually a number of days where you say, like, you should not use smart bidding for?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Do you have any clients in mind? Maybe you can kick this one off.
So in general, the conversion delay is a challenge, right? It's a challenge for making optimizations, as it is the time frame between a click and the conversion that happens. You would see the cost side, but not the return side yet. So without this data missing, in any case, no matter if you have smart bidding or also manual bidding in place, it's a challenge to react accordingly to it, right? Because you would make your keyword CPC adjustment based on data you don't know yet. So for smart bidding, we always see it working at least as good as manual, no matter how long the conversion delay is. However, we see that highest performance increase for a conversion delay that is shorter than 30 days.
Yeah, exactly. And I think at the end of the day, we have advertisers who have different challenges.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's not going to be a perfect solution, and we want to make sure that you at least run with the most efficient technology we had at your disposal. And that is most likely always smart bidding, even with a larger delay as well.
Definitely. So. Like an example would be like a Swiss retailer selling luxury watches, right? They're super expensive. It takes a lot of time between the first click and the first research until the actual sale that might even happen offline in the store. So here we have like huge conversion delays of like 2 to 3 months, and even then we see great results actually on smart bidding.
Exactly. So the bid trade report is very important. So let's move on to the next thing. My Magic Store has like a newsletter sign up, and what I'm really trying to do is to capture upper funnel engagement and activity and sign ups. So I'm not really interested for this campaign to attract like sales. Of course, I want sales down the line, but right now I just want to optimize towards getting more newsletter subscribers on this specific part of my website. And I know that you also get a lot of these questions from your clients, maybe not on newsletter, but like in general, like how do you drive upper funnel conversions? How do you tell the smart bidding to just focus on that conversion and optimize for that conversion for that campaign? And does it make sense?
Mm-hmm. Would you have like a specific campaign for driving newsletters, or how it's the account structure set up?
So in this case, as the magician and not as the search specialist, I was just thinking about creating a campaign that was called newsletter, because I kind of assumed that those conversions would be maybe cheaper than conversions for getting magic shows, but they're not the same. So I just want to drive as many of them as possible, because I do see that sometimes some of my newsletter emails convert into shows or conversions in my shop.
Okay, do you have like a dedicated budget just for the newsletter sign-up generation?
I actually do. I have like a dedicated €100 a week budget for it. But I was thinking about maybe, just taking the budget from the other campaigns. So what do you think?
So in terms of like moving the budget, I'd first ask you if the other campaigns are using their budget. Are they like limited, or are they?
They're not limited yet.
Okay.
I could foresee that in the future.
Okay, then I would not recommend to take it from these campaigns, because being limited in budget means like you don't enter all the auctions you possibly be able to enter. As you have it running on smart bidding, you only enter the auction if it's very likely you get the conversion for the CPA you set. So yes, I'd recommend to set up a new campaign with new created budget, as you have like an upper funnel goal on top of your current account structure. And we have a solution for focusing on specific conversion actions in place, which is the selective optimization. However, my follow-up question would be, if you have like the 100 euros and you want to steer them on the newsletter signups, what if this campaign would also bring you bookings? Would you care about that?
I mean, that would be nice. I wouldn't expect that, but that would be nice for sure, yeah.
Okay, so if you still also want the newsletter campaign to also drive the bookings, I would not recommend to have like the selective optimization in place, because then the campaign would only drive conversions that are actually tied to the campaign, which is the newsletter signups. But if your overall account goal is actually to drive the bookings, I'd make sure that all campaigns are also optimizing towards the bookings.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. I'm just gonna step outside the magician role again. So that's a really good point. So in general, even though we have like campaign level conversions and that feature is available, as Clara mentioned, like it's so important that we think about the overall objective, because this setting or this feature was not made to kind of sub-optimize for different goals or different campaigns. It was made for like the edge cases and examples where you have a budget for maybe a newsletter, and for that specific campaign, maybe it's okay that you don't drive other conversions. So really think about, is it the right thing? Most likely it's not the right thing in many cases. But in my case, let's just pretend like that I only want to drive newsletter signups, and therefore like how do I actually go about it?
Another example would be if you had like specific conversions you want to drive by display or YouTube. So in the past we recommended to split it up in different accounts. Now you can actually, with the selective optimization, just make sure you have the specific conversions underneath the campaigns and have them optimized towards the respective conversion settings.
And again, you know, the trade-off is, as you also mentioned, is if you only optimize for that, in that campaign, those conversions are the only one that's also going to be reported.
Yes.
So you could actually see a performance dip, because even though it's driving bookings or it's driving sales in the web store, it won't be reported in the conversion column for that campaign because it's only optimizing for that goal. So I think what we're trying to get through is, in most cases, it's maybe not the best solution, but in some cases it might be, and that's the ones where you have a dedicated budget, and when it's okay, that you most likely won't drive other conversions.
Exactly.
It's very specifically. And how you do it very quickly is that you go into the settings of your campaigns, and in there you can choose conversion actions for that specific campaign. Again, don't do it for every campaign, do it for one specifically in an edge case situation. It's very easy. You just pick the actions, or you create action sets. So you can even have a set of actions where you say, well, it's newsletter signups, it's maybe clicks on a button or whatever it might be that is related to this. So it's pretty straightforward. Do you have anything else you want to add before we move on to the next thing?
No, I think a case I had where we also used the selective optimization was where an advertiser set up a new website, right, with the new conversion tracking in place, or where you change your conversion tracking from one to another on the website. And to avoid like huge fluctuation within Smart Bidding and the account, you would not change all accounts to the new conversions, but opt in step by step the traffic on your account. And this is what selective optimization would be very handy as well for.
Yeah, that's a really good example. Yeah. And I mean, just testing in general, like if you're testing store visits or something like that, then this is a great intermediate step where you can transition into a new way of reporting conversions.
Definitely, yeah.
So yeah, let's move on to the next part. We're gonna go more and more granular as we change from slide to slide. The next part is my favorite part. It's the part that is the web shop part of my business, where I'm selling magic equipment. So more or less that's a web shop where I sell a lot of equipment, and that's like different prices, different products. And again, you know, what should be my considerations going into this? Clara, do you have anything top of mind?
So I'd ask you, as like your company goal is to create revenue for Nima Magic Shop, right? You have two ways of doing that. The Book a Magic Shop, we talked about that, where it's about like getting leads for the shows, but also you're selling equipment. So what's the specific goal of this segment of your business?
Oh, it is to drive as much revenue as possible, so I can go full time on this.
So you're selling. So, and how many products do you have?
I have a lot, and more coming.
Nice.
Yeah, so I think I have around 170 unique products, and my goal is to have 500 unique products.
Okay, amazing. Yeah. So that's a lot. That's good.
It's gonna be a big magic shop.
It is. My wife is not very happy with the storage situation at home.
So do these products all have the same price?
They definitely do not have the same price.
Okay.
They have different prices, yes.
Okay, amazing. So comparison to the shows where you have like a fixed price, you have like different pricing, and you want to optimize towards the value behind the price rather than just the volume of sales.
Yeah.
If I understood correctly. Okay, perfect. So I'd highly recommend you then to look in the value-based strategies, target ROAS in this case.
I just have a question, Clara, because I saw that we both have like target ROAS.
Yes.
And then we also have something called maximize conversion value.
Yes.
What is your advice for me in this situation?
Okay, what bid strategy to choose? Yeah, we have two different value-based strategies, exactly. So they're both running on the same algorithm. You just steer them differently, right? For the target ROAS, you would set like a target return on investment, return on ad spend you want to achieve.
Yeah.
For the maximize conversion value, it's more about like giving the campaign a specific budget and telling the campaign use the full budget, and it's designed to use the full daily budget and give you as much return of revenue as possible for that. So it's two slightly different goals. I'd say if you work with open budget and you know how much return on investment you need, go for target ROAS. If you work with fixed budgets and you don't care too much about the return on investment specifically, but you'd rather say, here's my investment, give me as much in return as possible, then go for the maximize conversion value.
That sounds perfect. Then let's go to more like the yeah, and that's what's really good. I think it's always about the objective, right? And I think before you actually set the bids, we have some features, or we have some news in the recommendation tab around setting bids.
Exactly. So the first, if you decided on the bidding strategy you want to use for your campaign, the first stop would always be the recommendations tab. It's quite new. We are putting a lot of resources into developing it. It started off at the ideas tab, I think, then it was called the opportunities tab, and now it's the recommendations tab. And it's basically giving you recommendations that are 100% tailored to your account setup, based on all the technical information we have from your account. And in here, you would then see recommendations for smart bidding opt-ins as well. And in this case, we see recommendations for target ROAS. So it would tell you for the specific campaign magic store, we recommend based on the given setup to use the target ROAS. And then underneath the target ROAS, you would also see a recommended target ROAS, so what to set, right, as a goal, as a target. Very, very important. If you opt in existing campaigns to smart bidding, to target ROAS, always kick it off with the given target ROAS that is recommended. Why not go higher, right? You might know or have the objective given from your team lead or your client, if you're an agency, that you need to reach a target ROAS of like 1,000, but here it recommends you 890. Start it off with the 890, because otherwise you lose out in auctions, right? You would not enter all the possible auctions.
Exactly. And a good rule of thumb is like everything you see in the recommendations tab, there's a high threshold before we actually surface it. So if it's surfacing, it means that we've done some simulations for a certain given amount of time. It could be 7 days. I think in general, that's the amount of days that we use in simulation. So really follow through on this. And even if I pay 890 and I feel like it's too little, it might still overperform. So again, I think have an open mind, but that's where you should start if you haven't set your target ROAS already, for a great suggestion.
Yes, and we'll talk later a bit about like how you can actually get or push up the ROAS, the actual ROAS on the campaign, without pushing the target of the campaign too much. And again, as we had the discussion before with the target CPA, right? How much are you really able to pay for one lead? Challenge yourself as well when you put target ROAS strategies. The question of, what is this sale really worth to me? So do I just think, and I see a lot of advertisers when I talk to them, not looking over the edge. So you would only consider this one sale and the return, instead of thinking, if I have a customer acquired, like being the first time buyer on my website, how much value will this customer bring in the future? And if you're able to analyze this and use CRM data, and you understand the customer lifetime value of your clients, you're then actually able to push traffic and push the conversion value behind your conversions as well.
Exactly.
Anything to add here?
No, I think that sounds about right. And I think everyone here can relate to maybe the idea of you just buying a little bit of magic equipment at my shop and never returning again is unrealistic.
Because it's a good quality, right?
It's such a great customer service.
Yeah,
also.
yeah, the best.
I'll for sure look up your website.
Yeah.
NimasMagicStore.com.
Yeah, definitely.
I hope it's launched by then. Cool.
So what can we actually now give to the campaign, to the algorithm, to increase the actual ROAS, right? The return for your business, for your business model. And the first stop should always be the first thing you should think of is always, how can I add additional data to the algorithm to be better able to predict the likelihood of a conversion? This is what smart bidding is doing in the end of the day. And if we talk about first party data, we talk about the first bucket you can see here. It's actually information coming from your advertisers, your client's website or CRM tool, or even like your apps or YouTube channel, etc. So this would be RLSA, similar audiences on search, customer match, if applicable, coming from your CRM data, app users, etc. We have great partnerships with Salesforce and Zapier.
Yeah, it's now become more easier than ever to actually import these signals from third-party tools into a smart bidding.
Exactly.
And just to build on what you're saying, like we often get the question, like, what is the next thing? What is the next level? Okay, I added smart bidding. I've set the target. It's working really well, but I want to take things to the next level. And that's really where first-party data comes into play. That is where you also differentiate from everyone else because you have something unique. Obviously, all of my clients are unique. And by adding customer match, I might be able to differentiate between different kind of magicians.
Yes.
Professional magicians, amateurs.
Yes.
Although I believe no one is an amateur when it comes to magic. But I mean, what would your take be on this? Because I feel like this is often some part of, like, that's a part of smart bidding where a lot of our clients, you know, have a lot of potential.
Yes, definitely. So especially the first party list on the left-hand side here is you adding more information to the algorithm, right? And first, the remarketing list, which is again quite a product that has been in place for a long time. Make sure you reflect every step in the customer journey. That's the most important. So the algorithm can learn if a customer or a website visitor did ABC, the person is more likely to convert or not. For the customer match coming from your CRM, as you said, and we discussed before, you might have a customer segment that is more likely to purchase more often and leave your money or spend more money on your website, right? Than another customer segment. So if you're able to segment those and put it back into the algorithm just via audience lists, this already can prove your smart bidding performance a lot. So yeah, definitely spend some time on that. Know your data, make sure you have as much data on top of the audience signals we already have as possible, because as Nima already mentioned, that's the USP and in the auction.
It is like, so we have a lot of signals, but by adding more unique signals, that's really your way to take things to the next level.
Definitely, and this will drive your performance, whereas the second bucket of signals, I call them the Google audiences, where we talk about affinities, in-markets, detailed demographics, etc. It's like information we have from consumer behavior, from auction dynamics, etc. So this is something that is already automatically picked up by smart bidding. And by adding those audiences, you would not necessarily improve the performance of the campaign of smart bidding. You would, however, get great insights from it, again, for building up your display, YouTube, etc., advertising activities, and also for reporting. It's super useful as you better understand who are actually the people the users buying with me or not.
Yeah, and just as a bonus, it's again audiences and especially the affinity and in market. It's an opportunity for you to take things to the next level again by customizing the ads based on the audiences.
Yeah.
So these things like adding first-party audiences, adding the audiences we also provide from Google side, is really like the next step, and that's what sets you apart from everyone else. So you can imagine for my shop, it will be making sure that I understand, like we talked about setting targets and bids, who are actually my high-value customers, who are my new customers, who are my returning customers, and how can I get some insights on them and tailor really my messaging and everything in my business towards these people. And think of it like, I know that's a word that's used a lot, but really think about it holistically. Like, as you said, what is the user journey? Like, what are some of the characteristics of someone who buys for the first time? You know, what is the average order value? And what is the average order value on the second time they buy around, once they found out that they can trust the place and it's really good quality and the magician is exceptional.
And the magic behind this is like, smart bidding takes care of all of this, right?
Exactly.
As soon as it has the data, it would learn and it would become better and better in predicting how likely it is that someone buys and like how likely the basket size or what the potential basket size would be as well.
Yeah. So this is really like the advanced part, and if you're already working on this, great. If you haven't started yet, here's something that you can kick off with that are really, really cool. As I mentioned, importing data, even offline conversions, has never been easier. And it's only going to be easier over time. We have a lot of announcement as well. You work with some of our largest advertisers on several projects where they also try to take things to the next level in terms of LTV. Like, what is your perspective on this? How do you think about these things in general?
So I think there's a lot of aspects that go into this, of course. I do work on some LTV projects where we're trying to bring in the lifetime value of a client from their full funnel once they have clicked and converted on their site, to figure out how much they're going to be worth afterwards and worth in the long term for this for a business. And those are typically some of the little bit more complex things to go into, depending on how much resources and which products you're using. Once you actually can add in your lifetime value and add in audiences, most importantly your first party, but also the Google audiences, then you can take this to a completely next level, as you guys were saying.
So that is really the magic in smart bidding. That's not only adding it, but making sure that you constantly like being aware of what are your own targets and objectives, but also giving it as many relevant signals as possible. And that is, I mean, and Matthias, you know this better than anyone. Of course, we at Google would like to and love to help you as much as possible, but this is also where we need you to help us providing that data, working together to figure out like what is the optimal LTV, what kind of data do we have. We talked about newsletter subscriptions earlier. Like those people would definitely be, they could be significantly differently. Like how should we think about that? When does what is the value of someone signing up to my newsletter, even though it doesn't have like an immediate value? So a lot of different but also very interesting business conversations to be had here.
Yes, definitely. So smart bidding makes our jobs even more interesting.
Yeah.
That's great. So we now moved the campaign to target ROAS, right?
Yeah.
So it's running on target ROAS. It has been running for quite some time, and I might do a review of the month or two to see how it's going. And what I'm always very interested in is understanding how much more potential does the campaign have, right? So how much more revenue can I generate with a specific campaign? And there is a feature in place called the Target ROAS Budget Simulator. The same is in place for Target CPA. If you go to the campaign overview, so you click on all campaigns, the campaign overview, and then you see like on each campaign, you have it's next to the budget, right?
Exactly.
To the daily budget, a little square.
Exactly.
So you can click on it, and this window would pop up, and it would give you a simulation on how much more revenue, conversion value, can you achieve if we look at the right hand side by increasing the budget. But also on the left hand side, you would see how much more revenue, and here you see we blacked it out.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I don't know if there's like a competing magicians on the live streams. I had to gray out my performance metrics.
We're very, very careful with our advertisers' data.
Yeah.
So you'd see like so you see the current ROAS you're running the campaign on, which is 500. So we started off lower than it was actually recommended. And now I want to understand, if I decreased my ROAS, how much more value could I get for that? So, and then you see the different scenarios in what's the impact on clicks, on the cost, on impressions, etc. But more importantly, on the amount of conversions and the conversion value, which is what you want to drive, right?
Yeah. And I think in this case, since I only have 2 campaigns, it will make sense to use the budget simulator. But there is like a dedicated performance planner session as well. And Performance Planner does more or less the same thing. It's the same engine, and then you can do it on aggregate across all of your campaigns or select specific ones. Yes. But it is relatively new that you can now simulate on ROAS, and I think it's very cool because, you know, as a business owner, as someone who's responsible for the marketing, it's very, you know, it's kind of like magic in a way that we're now at a place where we can forecast more or less how changes will impact the business. Of course, the numbers are directional, but they are as good as they get. Like it's the data is on query level. So it is as good as it gets in terms of forecasting.
Definitely. And it's already one of the next steps, right? Let's say you have an account, it's fully running on smart bidding strategies. And then the question is like, how can I improve? How can I get even more of the auctions? How can I improve or increase my reach, my conversion volume, my value, etc.? And this is one of the go-tos, definitely to then adjust your targets.
Yeah, and like I didn't mention it, but I was actually thinking about making a sale, a 70% discount. I have So I was thinking about doing a 70% sale, and I expect people in the magician community to go wild.
Okay.
Because this is very unheard of. So, like, obviously, I heard about seasonal campaigns, adjustments, like this new feature that Google launched that would allow me to kind of anticipate big changes to my conversions.
Yeah, the seasonality adjustment.
Exactly.
Right?
So that I mean, the smart bidding, I could imagine having a lot of people coming to the shop would increase the conversion rate. And is the smart bidding like really able to follow through on that and deliver?
Okay, very good question. So I have two follow-up questions on that. You said it's a 1-day sale.
So it's 1 day now. I could imagine it being 3 days if it's very successful.
Okay, but 3 days is the max. Like after 3 days, the sales will be over. And do you expect the conversion rate to change?
Yeah, I think it will definitely change because it's 70% is quite significant.
Yeah. Okay, amazing. So I think this is like the two key questions you need to ask yourself when thinking of using the seasonality adjustment feature. We only recommend it in cases where we have a spike in conversion rate, right? Where we expect it to go up by more than 30%. And that was the key, less than 3 to 7 days.
Okay.
Right? Everything that has a spike that is longer than 7 days or less than 30%, so the smart bidding algorithm is more than capable of picking up.
Yeah, so that's like less than 30% increase in conversion rate.
Exactly. It's about the conversion rate because this is what smart bidding optimizes for.
Okay.
And shorter than 3 to 7 days. Yes, and we've actually we launched this feature mainly because of Black Friday. I think it was in 2018 or no 2017, where we the first time ever recommended our advertisers to actually stay on. Oh, actually no, back then we recommended to move back to manual bidding. That was official recommendation for Black Friday 2017. Because we weren't 100% sure that smart bidding could handle this peak in conversion rate. 2018, however, was the first year we recommended to really stick with smart bidding, which was kind of a tricky. I mean, maybe you lived through these years. It was quite tricky, right? Because we had no proof that it would actually work. So it was like blind trust. We've seen it working incredibly well. And then in 2019, like last Black Friday, we recommended to stay on smart bidding, but also we had the proof from the year before that it actually works really, really well. Yeah. To now make sure we not only give the algorithm the signal of the conversion rate will spike, but also what the feature would do is black out the conversion data for the given period of time to ensure after the spike that the algorithm is going back to the performance before the seasonal event.
Yeah. I think that the most important thing here is to don't over-engineer it.
Yes.
Don't think about how should I do pre and post. As you just mentioned, it will ignore that period of time. So think of it as just hard coding into the machine. This will happen, and then the machine will most okay, there's gonna be this increase.
Yes.
Don't overdo it. It's just because we've seen so many advertisers who didn't use seasonality adjustments, and even through Black Friday, Christmas sale, the wildest increases, smart bidding was perfectly capable of following through. So I'm 100% confident recommending that. But still, we know that these days are some of the most important days for many of you and many of our advertisers. So in the cases where you have huge spikes, short amount of times, more than 30% as you said, then seasonality adjustments is something to consider.
Exactly. Specifically if the sale or the increase, the spike in conversion rate is driven by your website. So it's not like something happening in the auction or through a wider market. So it's really your website. Maybe even you have a TV spot running, right, for a week. And you expect conversion rate to go up because of that. It's nothing we could see in our auction dynamics immediately. This is where you can give the system a heads up. Everything that is driven by the market, by user behavior, smart bidding is totally fine of picking up itself.
So how do I use it?
How do you use it? If you click on the tools button and then you go to portfolio strategies, you see underneath on the left hand side advanced controls. And then you can click on the right bottom here, new seasonality adjustment. This window would pop up. And here you would set the start date and the end date. Again, this should not be longer than 3 to 7 days, because this is also the time period you would black out the conversion data for. You then choose the campaign types. You can choose whether you want to apply it for the overall account or specific campaigns. And then the last step would be you put your expected increase in conversion rate.
Exactly.
And that's it.
It's very straightforward, and I also feel like, again, this is a good reflection of you giving us, all advertisers, giving us feedback that this is important. So I think the fact that we have so much control and so many settings inside the feature also speaks to our commitment to everyone on smart bidding in general, that we want to make sure that you have the controls you need to anticipate whatever changes there might come. But this is really easy, and it's very nice that you can set the dates and expect the conversion rate, and even on device level decide on like how should this impact. Just keep in mind again that you are actually telling the algorithm this will happen. It's okay if you're off by a little, but again, you shouldn't say that it's going to be increasing by 100% or 200% if it's not based on anything or like based on very little. Try to be as realistic as possible. I think one advice I always give my client is to look at last year's data, look at historical data. How did it affect the conversion rate last year, and what are you doing differently this year that could increase the conversion rate as well?
Yes, definitely.
Cool.
Very good. Going into branding.
So there's branding, and I think branding is something that's very interesting because we also have a lot of new things coming here. We launched Target Impression Share not that long ago, and I know that a lot of clients have picked up on that. But in general, I just think the mindset around branding, I think search for many years, and also since it was invented more or less, that the whole pay-per-click model, it's always been about performance to some extent. That's always been the driver. But along the way, I think a lot of people also figured out that, in the case with newsletters, it might be more upper funnel curious that people are looking for. Like you can imagine someone searching for learn how to do magic tricks or best magic tricks. And that would be an excellent way for me to actually capture some upper funnel engagement or traffic that wouldn't necessarily convert immediately, but might be worth a lot to me down the line if we have the whole LTV model and the whole user journey figured out. So in this case, I have a very beautiful logo, very simple, Nima's Magic Shop, with a great tagline. And I really want to think about, branding in terms of smart bidding. Like, what can I do on smart bidding? And one of the things that I can do is to, have some thoughts around, what does it mean to have your brand shown? You can see here, again, this shop is fictional, this screenshot is fictional, it's not real. But in an example where someone searched for Nima's Magic Shop, right, and you look at the ads, and actually I'm shown in the 4th position. So I've shown last. Just have a conversation with your stakeholders around, like, how important is it for my brand to be shown in the top? So you see the yellow one is what we call the top paid placements, and the absolute top is number 1 of the page 1. So actually, when searching for my name and my brand and my store, I'm not number 1, but I'm in the top. And I don't know, like, what do you think about this? Like, do you hear from clients that this is a concern of theirs, or?
Yeah, so the search brand campaigns, it's always like there is a lot of discussion around that, right? I'd say the very first step to do is question yourself, what's the goal of the campaign? Do I want to drive conversion sales with my brand name, or do I want to be shown, do I want to be above my competitors?
Yeah.
If you want to drive conversions, we still are, like with the target CPA, target ROAS, bid strategies covered. If it's important to you to be shown, have a lot of impressions, then definitely go for the target impression share. I'd say your question around like 1st place, 4th place, etc. I hear a lot, and I do understand, like, a lot of advertisers want to be shown on top 1. Yeah. So what's your workaround there?
I'm just thinking if it's worth it, right? Because, like, on one hand, and again, I'm not speaking on behalf of Magician Nima now. On one hand, of course, I want to drive as many conversions, and I don't want to necessarily pay to be number 1 if it's not converting. But then on the other hand, I'm probably spend a lot of money to get people to search for my name. So it's like lower funnel, like it's really people who are looking for me specifically. It would be a shame if they didn't find me, or if they found, Magician Bob Jensen or Magician Tom van der Magic, which is better than me apparently. But, it's also, and that's the whole branding part, thinking about, awareness, capturing curious that you already own, that are actually people looking for your goods and your services, and making sure that they find them as well. And I think that's a trade-off that many clients also have to make. Like, what's most important, driving conversions or driving awareness around my brand? Yes. Which leads us to kind of like the next smart bidding solution, target impression share, that we promised we would speak about. And just to echo what you just mentioned before, it's very, very important for us to emphasize that it's actually doing exactly what it says. It's optimizing for impression share. So it's not necessarily optimizing for conversions or clicks or revenue. It's just making sure that you get the impression share on the position that you decide is important for you. So that could be in the top, that could be absolute top, but it could also just make sure that you're anywhere on the first page.
Yeah.
Right?
Makes sense.
So I think that's also a business conversation,
Yes.
right? Like, do we want to have 100% top impression share on our brand to make sure that people looking for us will always see us in our products?
Okay, it makes sense. So what about, I mean, we talked about like the conversion-based strategies, we talked about the target impression share. What about ECPC?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think a lot of our clients are using ECPC. Some of you might use it already. Again, I would say, ECPC is not what we call fully automated bidding at Google. And what that simply means is that you, by having a max CPC, you're actually putting a constraint on the performance. So you're putting a constraint on like, what is the efficiency gain you can get from using all of our signals. And we do see, I mean, up to 20% or more in efficiency gain from moving from ECPC to target CPA or target ROAS.
Yeah.
So I would more look at it as like, we have technology that is newer, that is more efficient. Like, use the newest technology we had that you have at your disposal, but just make sure that the objective is right. So if you have to choose between like an old car or a new sports car, and I'm not saying ECPC is an old car, I'm just saying that CPA, target ROAS, and so forth, maximize conversion is the newest. And as you mentioned in the beginning, it's where most like our engineering resources also being put at, and it's being optimized all the time. So in this case, if my goal is to make sure that I'm always shown and I want to be shown at a location, I have an option here where I can say I want to be shown 100% top of page or 100% at the top or just at the first place.
Okay, amazing.
But still putting in a max CPC, of course, to kind of respect whatever limit I might have on my CPC still.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah. So it's fairly easy, but just keep it in mind. You might see fluctuations on your CPC, on your conversions. Just keep in mind, if that at the end of the day is more important on your brand, then you have to use another bid strategy.
Which goal would you set? Like what impression share goal target?
It depends a lot. So for most of our clients, they would go with 100%, either in the top or the absolute, because it's just worth so much to them.
Yeah.
Not only from the performance point of view, but also on like as the brand, the whole brand strategy and so forth. So and I think even if you don't see the conversion numbers, they might land on offline or on other channels as well. So be open-minded about this, but also there needs to be some clarity about what are we optimizing for, and it's only the impression share in this case. Cool.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and so we touched a little bit upon, like, now we've seen some ads and we talked a little about like where to be on the page. This is a magic edition, and we have LTV, we covered so many things, but where I really believe the magic lies, and where a lot of advertisers, they kind of don't understand how big of a potential there is, it's in the creativity. Yeah. Not only in the creativity of, user journeys, but in the creativity of creating compelling ads. Because you can use the best technology. I just made an analogy to a new car, but you can really use the best technology, but if your creatives aren't as good or could be better, then you're losing out. Like, you can see on this screenshot, you have my competitors. They're really good ads. They have they're using all description lines, they're using the extensions and stuff like that, they're using RSAs, and then you have my ad in the bottom. So again, it doesn't matter if you set all your bids correctly. Even if you use LTV, you use the new smart bidding technology, if you haven't optimized your assets, then it's going to be hard for smart bidding to perform. I don't know, what do you think about this? Is this something you see a lot as well?
Definitely. And we see from studies that actually the creatives make up 75% of your performance, right, of your success as an advertiser online. Yeah. So this is definitely something you should put a lot of resources into. And we talked before about adding first-party data to improve performance. The same is true for improving your creatives, actually.
Yeah, and there's so many things, and that's really the creativity. I mean, I could maybe import all of my returning visitors and then tailor my ads to have a very funny or very enticing or a relevant message in my ad saying welcome back, or even giving them a discount great to see you again, or whatever it might be. And as I said, that is really the creativity, and that's what we will never be able to replace with technology. That is that human touch on the ads and everything.
Perfect. Use the functions, use the keyword insertion, etc. It's great. It's great tools.
Do you want to add anything to this?
Yeah, so always remember that even though we have all these automated tools and we have all these cool solutions, you are in the end trying to target a human being. So we tend to see them as users, clicks and everything, but it is a human being clicking this. So make sure that your ads and you're creating something that you would want to click yourself as well.
Exactly. So that is really where a lot of magic happens as well. One thing is getting the technology right, but getting the media and the assets right is just, if not more, as you just mentioned, important. And I think there's a lot of exciting things happening around the corner. Responsive search ads, if you haven't started already, that's simply a must. Like, that's the first thing you should have on your to-do list. I'm not going into like details on responsive search ads, but what I want to tell you is what we see now is that like we're moving from something towards something new, right? And RSAs are new. And the cool thing is, like, for the first time now, we are actually able to tell you from Google's point of view exactly what you need to improve on your ads. So we're able to tell you these are the ads that are performing well or poorly or average or good or excellent, and this is what you need to do specifically on ad level to improve that one. And that's something that we've never done before, at least not to this extent. I think that's like a golden opportunity to start improving your assets.
It's very directive and hands-on, right? It's like easy to act on it.
Exactly, and you can see here like add more headlines to increase your chances for better performance. Try adding longer headlines. So all of these things are amazing, and the coolest things that I think is coming is, you know, we used to live in this world where if you had one expanded text ad and you wanted to try some other assets or other headlines and description, the way that you would do that was creating a new ad and try a new combination. But now with RSA, where we have 15 headlines and we have something called the asset report, like you can put in all the different headlines and then it'll automate all the different combinations. So you don't have to create an ad for every time you have a combination. It'll do that. And again, what's really cool is that if you click on the RSA, it has, like, as you can see on the screenshot, an asset report with details, view asset details. And inside that report, it'll tell you exactly which headlines are performing well and which aren't. And that's, to me, it's just mind-blowing. I've been working with ads for many years, and you never knew which headlines were actually performing well. You could create a new ad, and if it was performing better than the other ad, you could guess, you could guess maybe that was that headline or this headline. But now we'll actually know over time as well.
Because you've been on the advertiser side as well, right?
Exactly.
So you know how it is, like,
it's
outside of our internal tools. So it's great,
And just to go back to the screenshot again, you know, you can try a lot of headlines, and then you can get some data on those headlines and understand how well they're performing. So that's really it. So the magic is, as we said, it's not only the technology, it's also the media. It's a huge part of optimizing and improving. And yeah, to sum it up, like when creativity meets automation,
magic happens.
Hey! Thank you,
okay,
Sarah.
perfect. We spend a lot of time on smart bidding now, like how to opt in, how to optimize as well. I'll give you like a 1-minute summary on what's next, what's the next steps, and then Matthias will take over and we'll say goodbye to you, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. So after opting into smart bidding, the question is like, how can I get the additional opportunity potential out there in the auctions, right? How can I enter more auctions? First, if you have everything opted into smart bidding, make sure you're not limited in budget, especially if you meet your targets, right? This means there might be even more conversions for the given target out there you're not getting at the moment. Second, you always have the option to relax your targets, right? Decrease your target rules or increase your target CPA, and get some more traffic in by doing that, entering more auctions. Second, what else can you do to enter more auctions? It's broaden your targeting and reach. How do you do that? Is by adding keywords, changing the keyword match types to broader match types, adding DSA ad groups, And we talked, of course, about the first party audience lists and the dynamic or responsive search ads. Third, remove any targeting constraints. So it's the same as broaden your targeting, but vice versa. So taking away constraints. When moving from manual to smart bidding, very often the campaigns do have historical restrictions on them or constraints on them, exclusions like negative keywords, excluded geographics, audience lists, etc. So make sure to include them, because smart bidding would do the job of defining or making the decision, is the user valuable, very likely to convert or not. Last but not least, and that's a question we are getting quite often as well, is like, what's the perfect account structure for smart bidding to work?
Yeah.
Good news is there is no specific account structure, so smart bidding does work on any account structure, better than manual. However, the more data is going through one smart bidding strategy, whether it's on campaign or portfolio level, the better, the faster it learns and the better it would perform. So if you have like a new account set up because you're entering a new market, or as an agency you acquired a new client and you set up everything from scratch, make sure to keep it simple and automated friendly.
Yeah, and that's great.
That was
advice.
a minute, I hope. I'm not sure.
Tomorrow we also have a few sessions, and we're going to talk about display and YouTube there. And if you want to know a little bit more in details about what Clara talked about towards the end here with how to expand your presence on search, Friday afternoon we have a really cool session hosted by myself and our other search specialist called Owen on how to expand your keyword coverage and really try to optimize for the profitability. We're going to stick around a little bit more to answer some questions, and I want to thank both of you. I certainly learned a lot, and I really hope that everyone else did as well. We also have a few questions that were asked previously that if you guys have the time to answer now, we could answer, and we'll stick around for about 15 to 20 minutes more. Cool, guys, let's jump into a few questions. So if I test out smart bidding and I don't see any noticeable difference in the test period, if it's, let's say we're testing it out in a month or two, and we have gotten some significant traffic in, would you still go with the smart bidding? Like, let's say you're only seeing a 2 to 3% increase in number of conversions, for instance.
Well, I think 2 to 3% is still quite nice. Like, any increase is great. I think sometimes we also focus a lot on the performance, but the efficiency gain, the performance, but there's the obvious efficiency gain of not doing the bidding anymore. You still have to set targets, but you just freed up a lot of time to do the stuff that we just talked about, to start exploring audiences, LTV, assets, all this stuff. So I think if you don't see if you don't see more than 2 to 3%, and you feel like, okay, I want more out of smart bidding, I think you just freed up a massive amount of time to do those things. I don't know if you have anything you want to add on that.
No, big +1 on that one.
Yeah. And with smart bidding, is there an optimal structure to an account? Let's say you're starting a new account from the beginning. You touched on it towards the end here.
Yeah, I said it's a question we're getting quite a lot. So let's say you open up a new account, you have all the freedom in the world to set it up. I'd think of what's the objective of the account, but also what are the different objectives of the different campaigns. So going back to Nima's example, you'd have one business sector where you want to drive leads, another one where you want to drive sales. So structure the campaigns as such, and also know already like what's the CPA bundles and what's the ROAS bundles you want to optimize for, and then have those respective products or leads or whatever it is then for your business within campaigns, and try to keep the number of campaigns to a minimum. So find the sweet spot between optimizing towards the targets you want to drive, your campaign objectives, and the amount of data you get into one campaign.
Perfect. So I know a lot of advertisers also drive with they used to optimize towards single keyword ad groups, and they did that basically for control as well. Are there any advantages to doing that versus anything else right now, or are there any disadvantages to doing it with smart bidding?
Well, I would say in my experience, most clients are now moving away from SCAG or single keyword ad groups. And it's simply because, as you know, we're adding more keywords and people are searching in different ways. It's only becoming more time consuming and more complex, which again is taking time away from these high value tasks that we talked about, like the next level stuff. So I would say there's nothing wrong with historically coming from that, like coming from a single keyword ad groups or SCAGs. But I think the right thing would be to start thinking about, at least if you have those accounts right now, how to consolidate. And you don't necessarily have to do it drastically. It could be a transition, right?
Yes.
So I would say, the future is consolidating, having as much data as possible, and it's a competitive advantage as well, right? So really think about it as like, where's everything heading in terms of automation? And even if it might be performing well today, it might not necessarily be performing well in a year from now, but you still have the same amount of workload to make sure that it performs. So yeah.
And also we know that 15% of every search queries every day is based on keywords that have never been searched before. So you're missing out on this opportunity. Plus, if you have the campaigns running on smart bidding, it's your safety net anyways.
Yeah. So again, we don't have any particular recommendation. There's no perfect structure. I think what we're seeing is simplifying, and then with smart bidding, you'll have the control. So it makes sense that historical people had one keyword per group, but I mean, it doesn't necessarily make sense anymore from the control point of view. So save yourself some time and try to think about how you can consolidate. Maybe not in one take, but also, or if you're brave enough, you can do it in one big restructuring.
Be careful.
but yeah, be careful. Like, plan it out. Don't rock the boat too much.
Yeah. Thank you, Nima and Clara, once again for taking us through the topic of smart bidding. I also want to thank everyone for viewing this session and for taking part of this week with us. This session was the first one in the Learn from Home week. We hope that you enjoy being part of this week and will watch many more of our sessions and that they're useful. Please do give us feedback on the right-hand side of the screen. We actively use it to make these sessions better. Have a great day, and we hope to see you for the rest of the week.